Martin can merge a large and heterogeneous collection of objects in hipSpace. Objects represent pieces of information. Martin can move and resize them. He can also use the T shortcut in order to show and hide their optional title. hipSpace records all the object life cycles, their entrance into the space, their movements, their title and size changes, linkages and unlinkages, and their leaving. Martin places the pointer somewhere in the space and scrolls down to show the timeline. Martin simply moves the pointer inside the ruler and uses horizontal scroll, vertical scroll, or both to change the ruler periods at his own convenience. hipSpace uses two different time cursors to browse through time. The default cursor is called the Now cursor. It displays the present state of the space, between the past in dark grey and the future in light grey. A second time cursor, called the Search cursor, lets Martin rewind his personal space. He only has to click on the ruler and drag the Search cursor to navigate through time. Martin had prepared some useful objects before his recent trip to Peru. hipSpace uses time as the first place to store, organize, and retrieve objects. Most objects naturally take their place in time: a flight ticket, a hotel booking, some interesting maps, web bookmarks, the program of the trip, a flyer for a concert. No need to archive them in a long folder hierarchy. All these objects are functional at a specific time and for a certain period. Martin needs to recall some objects to create a flyer. Martin browses through time to retrieve particular objects. He knows that what he is looking for is close to the change of wallpaper when he visited Machu Picchu. For each selected object, a track appears below the timeline. Inside the track, there are time intervals that indicate at what time these objects were used. Martin can select the default space by clicking on Now cursor. These two image objects disappear because they do not exist at the present time. Pressing on the Recall button will create new intervals and the selected objects become visible in the present state. We do the same when we bring back memories in our mind. Martin double-clicks anywhere in the space to return to the starting space, which means to go back to the home time and tidy up the space. In our brain, we also use concomitants to retrieve objects. Martin knows that somewhere in the timeline there's an implicit link between Fernando and the image he's looking for. When he drags Fernando into his space, Fernando's track appears, indicating every time he was present in the space. He simply moves the pointer on the ruler, this will activate the Search cursor, and move it to the time pointed by the mouse. Here is Fernando's object. A single click in the space will deselect it. Next to it is the image wanted. A simpler way to recall an object is to initiate a drag and drop by holding down the click, waiting a short time, which will switch the cursor to the default Now cursor, then drag the object to the right place before releasing the click. It's done! Martin creates the flyer and releases unused objects. Martin needs to move an object outside the space, so he initiates a drag and drop, clicks down, waits a short time until the pointer icon changes, and is then able to drag the object. Martin can save his flyer into the space by selecting the hipSpace folder in the Save panel. A new object appears in the bottom left corner. He can click in the space to bring it to the front. The job is done. There is no need to store the flyer in a long folder hierarchy. Martin doesn't need the images anymore, so he selects them and releases them using the Delete key. Pressing the Delete key a second time will deselect the objects. Every object is recorded, therefore Martin is safe to release all unused objects from his current space. Select, press the Delete key, and press Delete again to deselect. The clean action is the same for all objects, and boom! No need to worry. Scrolling down in the space will show the timeline, Then scroll up will expand the pass period. Boom! All objects whose intervals end in the pass period will be shown with transparency. Martin is able to bring back a song with the contextual menu, as well as being able to bring back contacts. A scroll down will close the pass period. Martin adds objects in the future. The calendar is another way to browse through time. On Friday, Martin has an appointment for a new job. He needs to put some objects together. He drag and drops 2 documents from the Finder. The time intervals start on Friday. He then drag and drops the contact of the person he is meeting with. One click in the space will bring it to the front. Every click in the space is like a step back. The next click will deselect objects, as well as activate the Now cursor and close extra panels. A scroll right will expand the future period. All objects at the start in the future period will be shown with transparency. There will be a dotted line around them. A scroll left will reduce the future period. Martin draws links between objects. Martin discovered a great music group during his trip to Peru. From a Safari window, he holds down the button to drag a picture into hipSpace. Stopping the pointer for a short time will make the window disappear, freeing the entire space until the dropped object appears. Each object dragged from the web remembers its location, even if the window has been closed and the URL was lost. The Open Original action retrieves the original website. Martin drags a second picture of the rock star. Step back to bring hipSpace to the front. Step back again to deselect. In his brain, Martin is free to create all the connections he wants. hipSpace has the same functionality. Any object can play the role of a graphical tag. Choosing the Filter tool, Martin can draw links between 2 pictures and the contact of Amanda. Amanda is like a tag that filters unconnected objects. The pointer shifted in space. A scroll up will enlarge the pass period and display any other released objects which are linked to Amanda. Here is the flyer of the concert in Peru. Select this flyer as a new filter to check if other linked objects exist, and so on and so forth. A step back to deselect all active filters, a scroll down to close the pass period, or in all cases, a double click in the space to go back to the starting space. It's time for hipSpace.